Alrighty. Hey guys, time for some fun stuff. More GBGW. I still call it GBGW just because we called it that for what? That was like 2 years, 2.5 years. So it's like just baked into the head. Now, new content dropped. We got ourselves a very interesting Sokai this time around. Obviously, we're going to do the normal cycle. We're going to take a look at our welfare suit. We're going to take a look at what's in the gacha. We're going to hopefully see what's on Twitter because they still don't have the video up. And then we're going to check out alterations. Let's get cracking. Come on, it's GBM now. Look, man, you call something with a certain name for like 2 years, more than 2 years. It is so hard to kick the habit. All right. Shop. Most games after like a couple of years tend to mix things up a little bit. You know, you get different menu music, whatever. GBM's been very static on that. And still cheese, there's no summer stuff. They blew the bank last year with all the swimsuit pilots, dude. Give them a break. All right. Let's take a look at our Earth 3. Now, this isn't the first Earth 3 we've had in the game, obviously. They ran banners for these suits way back. So this is going to be our alternate attribute Earth 3. Let's see what happens. Head-mounted Vulcan. Okay. You know, I should probably look at the stats still, but man, that EX skill just, killed me on the inside. Okay, so starting from the top, stats. Do keep in mind this is a, oh geez, that's still really bright. I swear I'm turning this down like every stream. Anyways, so everyone remembers, this is a welfare. Typically, we do see their primary stat, in this case with the Earth 3 shot machine. We're looking probably around 38 4K. That's typically like the upper limit we've seen for welfare. Sometimes they go a little bit further than that, but those are the really good suits stat-wise. So that's kind of where we're looking for this. With that, we're sitting at, with carryover from shot defense, 38, 3900. Solid numbers. Good stuff. Bueno. Word tags, mid-range and Gundam type. Both of these very workable tertiary tags. Gundam type being one of the better tags because it activates so many different traits throughout the game. However, it just boosts your shot attack by 5%. If you're looking to min-max, you want shot defense as well. But honestly, it's 5%. Who the hell cares? So tags, nice, lots of options. Stats, nice. EX skills, literally one of the worst, if not the worst in the game. Yeah. Moving along, torso. With power attribute, EX skill cooldown reduced by 15%. So obviously not the highest EX skill cooldown modifier we've seen, not even on welfares. We have had a welfare push 20% before. However, for a welfare, 15% is still very good, especially considering the only activation trigger is power, which, you know, it's easy. 5 parts in your suit got to be power, and you're good. So very easy to activate. 15% is very high for welfares. Nice. Mid-range Gundam type, pretty much what I said previously. Stat-wise, torso, well, okay. Torso does most of the time have higher shot attack than pretty much anything other than, like, the head. But seeing a torso go past 2K on its prime, right? I haven't even looked at the stats yet. So you guys look at the stats, and if I say, oh, it's rare to see them go over 2K and it's base over 2K, it's like, well, it's a rarity, honestly. Anyways. So, body, typically we want to look around 2K. That's the normal high ceiling for a welfare for torso attack. So, yeah. And so, looking at our number... Wow, that's a lot of melee defense, though. Numerically, melee attack with carryover, we're looking at about 1500-ish, kind of around there. That's really high for a not primary melee suit, so good numbers. Shot attack base 1,500. Carryover, looking at about 1,800 or so. So that's definitely in the very, very high upper limits there for welfare torsos for shot attack. I'd say probably top 2% for welfares, if not top 1%. So that's really, really good. Tags, mid-range Gundam type. I've already talked about that. Arms. When all 3 Gunpla and Squad are power, it's pretty straightforward. Your 3 Gunpla are all power attribute. Enemy EX skill damage plus 30%. For people that don't know what that means, they're new to the game, whatever. The way that this slides into the battle formula effectively works out as if this was reading EX skill damage plus 30%, but it's a different modifier, so it does more damage. The text is really terribly translated, honestly. Enemy EX skill damage plus 30% makes it sound like they do more damage to you. Not the case. You're doing 30% more damage to them, but this is a different modifier than EX skill damage plus 30%. Thus, in the battle formula, it'll do more damage stacked with those than just more EX skill damage plus 30%. And obviously as well, if you just have a bunch of enemy EX skill damage plus 30%, you would get a lot more by switching one of those to EX skill power plus 30%. Anyways, rambling. Good. Not the best. The requirement of 3 of your suits, all 3 being power, means you have a lot less flexibility in how you're doing combat, the rock, paper, scissors tree. So mileage may vary on this, but at least it's not terribly difficult to activate. I just don't think it's good activation trigger, you know? At least when it's like all of them are different attributes, it's okay, you got 1 for each occasion, but with this being all the same, eh. Okay, so statistically, arms. Oh, okay, interesting. So, melee-wise, we're looking at about 3,700 or so melee attack on these arms. Do note, the carryover I'm using is the 30% carryover, which is the purple. Very easy to get in relation to the gold frame parts. So keep that in mind. Obviously, the modifier is going to be higher, and the stats will be much more skewed up if you have better parts of those, but the purple one's very easy to get. That's why I'm using it in here with the numbers. Yeah. Anyways, numerically, again, about 3,700, maybe roll up to like 3,800. Great numbers on that. Lots of melee attack, even though it's not a primary melee suit. We would like to see, obviously, if it was a melee suit, more like 4.2, 4.3k. So melee's nice, but we care about the shot. On that note, we're looking at about 1,900 or so, kind of spitballing around there. As far as welfare shot arms go, it's definitely not the best we've seen. It's still very good, probably top 3, top 2%, no issues there. Yeah, shot arms, unless they're like limited Sokai, tend to stagnate. You don't really see them go past 3k ever, again, unless they're like limited or Sokai. So seeing it skewed a little bit, you know, kind of around 2k is normally what I expect to see that from a welfare, frankly. Do keep in mind, when the game launched, the best shot arms in the game were the Wing Gundam. It had like, what, 1197 or something before marks were introduced. So, yeah, blowing that out of the water. Is the aerial a suit you are considering to roll on? Look, Matt, we're not even at the aerial yet. Pump the brakes. Let me give you a little bit of a spoiler, because it seems it's been long enough, y'all forgot. Is it the Kshatriya? No. Is it the Amaterasu? No. Is it even the gold frame? No. Unless the aerial is absolutely busted or baller, to me, really not much of a reason to roll. And even then, I'm saving all my horror for the suits I really like, because there's just no point to more power. I say this like almost every time this discussion comes up, if not every time. It's a rat race. People get better parts with higher numbers to compete with other people in PvP that have better parts with the higher numbers. Outside of that, there is no reason to be rolling the gacha for anything other than your favorites or things that you like aesthetically. Like, that's literally it. If you're not participating in the PvP rat race, or you're not trying to get yourself solidified in the PvP ladder somewhere that you're comfortable with, there's just no point. which I will say is actually a very good thing. Typically, games force you to roll to keep up with all content, events, and otherwise. This game is very chill about that. All right, so arms, statistically, good stuff. Trait, I don't like the trigger for it, everything being power, but okay. Tags, mid-range, Gundam type. Already talked about that, moving on. Legs. Let's see, do we skip leg day? Ranged weapons, EX skill power boosted by 35%. This refers to the part in your gun slot, the ranged weapon, and this just gives it a flat 35% EX skill power boost for a welfare. This is, I think, the highest modifier we've seen for EX skill power, which makes it absolutely amazing. And obviously very easy activation trigger. My only real complaint, obviously, is that it only boosts the range weapon EX skill and not all EX skills, meaning there is very limited value to this overall. But for a new player, someone that's looking to just, you know, maybe they got Rolling Buster and they just want to abuse it, here you go. Statistically, legs. So remember, legs and backpack tend to be the lowest statted parts of the entire suit. So you're kind of looking anywhere between 14 to 1600 for a really, really good part. 12 to 1400. So it's like 12 to 1400 is okay. 1400 to 1600 is, yeah, that's good stuff. Above that though, welfare, take me away. So shot attack right out of the gate. We're already looking at something amazing. 1600 flat, just right there before carryover. Carryover pushes us to 1800. Welfare legs, these are really, really good stat-wise for shot attack. So that's really nice. Melee, obviously a little lower because, you know, it's a shot suit. So we're looking at, what, that's like about 700 carryover. So about 1550, 1600 or so melee attack around there. For a pair of legs, that's really good. Considering how close the gap is between that and its modified shot attack, no complaints here, Chief. Solid. So the trait is, you know, for welfare, it's really nice. It's not as flexible as I'd like it, but honestly, for what it is, damn, son. Statistically, nice. Tags, mid-range, pro tag. Pro tag is thematically accurate for this suit, obviously, but as it is a shot suit first, pro tag's kind of out of place here, but is what it is, right? Mid-range pro tag, I would say that is thematically on point. So you just got to work with it. But, you know, that's what backslotting is for if you feel like alternating the suit, you know? Good legs. Definitely did not skip leg day. Backpack. Cougar Rush. Execute a combo on the target using a beam saber in both hands. Unless I'm mistaken, even though on paper, D Pierce, B plus power, low cooldown sounds great, the animation for this, very easy to whiff, very little, if any, homing. Honestly, the animation kind of makes it not great. On paper, though, looks solid. You just gotta hit and, you know, land the hits. That's where the problem comes in here. Statistically, we're looking at about 1800-ish shot attack. Kind of around there. Not bad. Melee-wise, we're looking at about 1600 or so. So, honestly, again, for a welfare suit, the stats are very, very good on this after carryover offensively in both categories. It can be, well, at least the leg and the backpack can be used in like a welfare hybrid kind of build setup. And that's not bad, honestly, for someone that's like new to the game. If you wanted to get this suit, hefty amount of shot attack, a good balance of melee in there to kind of help you out as you need it. A good amount of healthy traits on this so far, workable tags. I don't have a ton of complaints so far about the actual frame of the suit. Honestly, mid-range, workable. I wish that the secondary tags were a little more friendly. Gundam type's not bad, but maybe one of the shot primary tags, you know, that would have been nice. Maybe high firepower, you know, something to really kind of help with the newer players and their builds and stuff, but definitely workable for a frame. All right, let's take a look at the rest of it. Beam Saber. I just want to... Man, y'all just thirsting on those swimsuits. Wait for next year. There's going to be a great summer event next year. I promise. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Why y'all so thirst, man? They're just PNGs. Not even L2D. Now, if they gave us a 3D model of the character on the home screen like they have Haro, I would understand the thirst. Ya dig? Alright, Beam Saber. While mid-range, initial EX skill charge boosted by 20%. So initial EX skill charge, very convenient. That refers to the lower number in brackets when you're looking at a cooldown for a skill. This takes 20% off. This can be useful for 0-second EX skill comps, CDRs. However, at the same time, this only affects the first cooldown and not subsequent ones. So if you're going to use a magazine EX skill, this is going to be effectively useless because it only makes the first shot instant, but the first shot's typically always instant anyways. Doesn't really matter. For longer cutscene EX skills, this could have a big impact because they typically have an initial charge of like 20 seconds, 24, around there. This just takes a whole fifth of that right off, and if you get enough, instant cutscene skill, and then if you have enough CDR, you can just use it again right after. But nice. Mid-range, very easy to activate as well. The suit is chock full of it, and you can find it on a ton of other parts in the game as well. So, okay. Mid-range pro tag. Again, still not liking the pro tag, but this mid-range is workable. Statistically, okay, just out of the box, almost 700 shot attack. Keep in mind, typically, even on like larger budget suits, the 4-star gacha stuff that we used to get, this stuff, you typically only see like 400 shot attack on the melee weapon. Here, we're looking at almost 700, like practically twice that. That's pretty damn good. And then for melee, we're sitting at just under 4K. It's like 4,900 something, or 3,900 something. Keep in mind, we have had welfares where their melee weapon does break 4K, so this obviously does not enter that 4K plus bracket, but it is very close, very good. Honestly, 150 points, 200 points, really not going to matter at the end of the day, so good Beam Saber. It's got a nice trait, it's got good numbers, it has workable tags. Nice. Whatever happened to the preview system they were introducing? Please understand, future patch. I'm going to assume it's coming out in a future patch and it's just something happened with it. Like, I really, really hope. Now, okay, double edge here, right? I don't want the monkey's paw to curl, but knock on wood. Covered by bases. Anyways, if they're developing a sequel to GBM or something to take it on as a spiritual successor, because this game had a really nice foundation to it, it just became very convoluted at some point, and it never really leveraged a lot of the strengths it had available. And I've seen a lot of people leaving at the same time, a lot of new people joining, as well. So it's kind of a healthy balance there. If they are making a GBM 2, whatever the sequel may be, I really, really hope they take to mind a lot of these little fundamental things that we want as part of the user experience to implement them in this hypothetical sequel. A built-in preview system for EX skills, a more solid numbering system for pierce power, so we actually see what these values are instead of just letters that, even like if you have two skills that are B+, they still have different power values. It's just not listed what they are. You could have a low end of B+ or a high end of B+, almost A-, right? But you don't know. And I really hope, and those are just some of the things, right? Obviously, there's a lot more changes I would love them to have. Give us modes that leverage all of this power we keep getting. Why do we still not have like an unlimited combat mode where you just keep fighting stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger waves of enemies? Or set it up so the player can decide mooks or bosses, have a boss gauntlet rush, where as you kill them, they get stronger and stronger and stronger. You just get a score based on how much damage you did. That way we actually have a way to use all of this power, to just play the game, to see how our suit performs in these kind of situations. And I really hope that in this hypothetical sequel, they take this information that they've kind of gleaned from what we've given them as feedback and build it all in at the base, because from a personal point of view, as someone that does software development, adding systems into something like this is very difficult. There's a lot of things that can go wrong. you add a preview system, but you may break the menus. You may break multiple other factors of it. People may be able to find an exploit where they're previewing it, and you know, they can back out to the menu while it's running, get into a match, and the EX skill's just going to fire off right away. You got to make sure, you know, exploits like this can't happen. They could just, you know, clear fights with this EX skill they don't have access to. Lots of problems and hypotheticals and issues that you have to always oversee, and the more complicated and the larger something is, the more likely you are to break it by even the tiniest little addition into it, right? Changing numbers and stuff around, not a big deal, but adding whole features can be very difficult to do. So I sympathize with them on that. This is a very big game. It has tons of features, tons of systems, and I can see them adding something we see as easy with a preview system can be very complicated. Don't forget, it also has to go through the UI team, has to go through the UX team, it has to get okayed by a couple of people up top. The suit's got okayed too, and all these other factors and stuff. So yeah. Anyway, Beam Saber good. Moving on. Rifle. So let's see what this rifle has that earned it a EX skill power boost. Charge Shot. Attach your shield to your rifle and blast them with a high energy beam. B+ power, D pierce, low cooldown. Alright. You know, it's your bog standard effective like pocket rocket EX skill. Cool beans. No real complaints there. It's B+ power, that's our standard. The connection issues and load times are killing me given how much space this game takes up. Yeah, that's the other thing too. This game takes a large amount of space on your phone. Now, I am not saying that there is an easy solution for that, because they use a myriad of 3D models in this, between the maps, all the suits, all the parts, all the weapons, all these different things are 3D models. And you would be hard pressed, if not even able to in the first place, find another mobile game on the market that has as many unique 3D models as this game does. There are a lot, just between the suits alone, all the different parts. Finding a way to safely compress that to take up less space on a device, very, very difficult to do. On top of that, it can also be very difficult to like reuse and recycle parts that already exist. Now, I'm not sure how it works under the hood, for obvious reasons, but we have the Earth 3 Gundam here. My curiosity is, we have two versions of the Earth 3 in the game. Are there separate 3D models for both of them, or does the game intelligently reference the other Earth 3 parts that already exist to create the 3D model? I think that's an important question and distinction to also make. If it's the former, where they have two unique Earth 3 models, that is going to bloat the game up a ton. For, again, obvious reasons. If they're able to reference the existing suit, because it's the same damn thing, or existing models, because they're the same thing, and just use those, obviously, the size would be a lot smaller. And I think it's important to know that before really complaining about the game size, and also subsequently future games. Because if they already have this reference system set up, then cool. It just means there's a lot of friggin' Gundams, which we all know to be true, right? And that's why stuff like SD Eternal is going to be a lot easier on the phone, because it's mostly PNGs, which take up a lot less space than 3D models. So yeah, food for thought. Because a 3D model is not just the model data itself, but it's also all the textures associated with it. Unlike a PNG, which is just a single font of image effectively, with a 3D model, you have a ton of PNG all around the suit, right? So 3D models are harsh, man, but damn, did it. Like, this game does really good work with its 3D models. I'll tell you that much. A lot of the suits, even the more intricate ones, got good models. So, yeah. How big is it? 10 plus gigs? I don't even remember how big this game is anymore, frankly. I think it's like 13 gigs or something. It's ridiculous. The problem is the game has to render all the thousands of suit combinations made by each user's server loadout. So that's not really the case. When you go into a arena match, most of the loading is effectively going to be in a perfect world, because again, I don't know how the game works under the hood, but in a perfect world, you start an arena match, the game pings the server and goes, hey, I'm matching against this player. I'm going to start loading my models. You tell me what I need to load for this other player. And the game will pull your 3D models, your textures, build your suits, and then the server goes, aight, here's the IDs for the parts you need to load for the enemy suits, and then your game goes, cool, and buffers those in. And once all that's done, it loads the map, cool, plonks everything down, let's get the game going. You don't have to have every single suit buffered in memory at the same time, but it doesn't make any sense to not have them at least in storage, because then you'd have to keep fetching every time you want to match against somebody that's parts you don't have. And that would make, God, that would just be terrible. That'd be horrific. Can you imagine that? You're like, all right, let's do some arena, and you match against a guy that has 3 suits that have all the parts that you don't have a single one of, and the game's like, all right, hold on, let me just start downloading here. 100 megs, I'll be right back. No. My guess would be it takes different models, seeing some of the game as separate models for altered, non-altered parts. Yeah, again, I don't know how it works under the hood. I'm not going to start pointing fingers at it. I just hope that if there is a sequel to this, they do work on a lot of these things and do references and stuff to save on space and all these other things. Look, when I look at Fate Grand Order, which had, it was what, 7th anniversary or whatever, and that takes up less space than a game half of its age. Granted, one is 2D, one is 3D, but FGO has a lot of 2D. A lot of 2D. On top of that, Punishing Gray Raven, right? You can make an argument for that as well. It has a significant size on my phone, way higher detailed models across the board, way higher detailed maps and everything, still significantly smaller. Granted, not as many 3D models as this game does, but yeah. Out of every game on my phone, I think the only one that takes up more space than this was Genshin when I had that installed. It's Genshin. Shocking nobody, I hope. And Tower of Fantasy. I think those are the only 2 games that had more storage space on my phone than this. Anyways, any word on the multi-mission issue? No. They're aware of it, though. They are aware of it. Not much I do know. That's all I can give you at this time, unfortunately, lads. I'm sorry. What about Odysseus's MP? Okay, yeah, sure. They have the odd little spattering of 3D models here and there for noble phantasms or maps or weapons. But, like, at the end of the day, like 98% of FGO is 2D, and then the rest is 3D, right? Whereas this game, I'm gonna, honestly, I would say probably a 50-50 in terms of space. There's so many 3D models here. There's a lot of 2D as well, but yeah. FGO's actual file size is smaller than what we have right now. Yeah, I'm not surprised. Things can get really weird when it comes to compression. For reference, Pokemon Masters is 4 to 5 gigs. However, Pokemon Masters also has a lot less stuff than this game. Remember, keep in mind, GBM, more or less consistently, for every single week, for the first 2.5 years, gave us like 3 suits, right? And that alone is like 15 parts plus, you know, just the frame, on top of the pilots, on top of weapons and stuff, right? There's so much content in this game. I'm not surprised it takes up as much space as it does. I just really hope that for any future iteration of this, or even a future patch for this game, they dial it back, because it takes a ridiculous amount of space. I remember the dev saying old files are being retained when they move to a new system for downloading or something. So there's factors, music, audio, VFX. Yeah, so Omar, if you go into almost any modern game, decompile it, and look at the assets, The ones that typically take the most space are going to be your 3D models, and if I remember right, I think it's audio. Those are typically like the two big ones when it comes to like a game, because it also depends on the game, obviously. Personal experience, Tales of Luminaria. The majority of that game's space was dedicated to map files and audio files. At the same time, if you played Tales of Luminaria, you know how big those maps are. If it was something more like, I don't know, a Street Fighter, and you decompile that, the stages, numerous, are very small, and there are camera tricks in place that they don't have to have everything rendered as full 3D models to save on a multitude of different resources. So it depends on the game, depends on how everything is implemented, all these things. But from personal experience, right, when I look at stuff, it's map files, audio files. The images, depending on the game, can be plentiful or not, but even then, it's kind of a drop in the bucket compared. And also, depends on the audio, right? There are some games that have a very limited OST that obviously then have a much smaller footprint. Then there are games that are like rhythm games. Those are mostly audio. For obvious reasons. Right? But for a general game that you just pick up off the shelf somewhere, it's like map files and audio files that'll eat most of the space on you. Everything else is like bytes and kilobytes in comparison. So I just want them to fix funnels. I don't think they ever did fix funnels. I don't think they ever announced they were going to fix funnels. Oh. I think that was just us being very hopeful that they would address the issue and fix funnels, because, like, come on, man, funnels. I don't consider new parts content. It's like saying game time, no armor, weapons, or grind MMOs content with them new to do. Yeah, I understand where you're coming from with that, Mana, but at the same time, would you call a rerun content? A lot of people do. I wouldn't call it new content. I would call it a rerun. But a lot of people are like, yeah, it's new content, something to do in the dead weeks. You know, it gives me stuff to do. It's, yeah, but we've done it already. Does it really count? It's very hard to quantify some stuff. Like, what is considered new content? Because people look at it differently. If you look at it in purely terms of the word said, if they give you like a 5 megabyte patch that rebalance a couple of things, technically that's new content. You know, they add new suits to the game that you can farm, that you can gacha, whatever. That's new content. They add new events. They add new game modes. They add new story chapters. It's new content. But at the same time, there are people that don't care about the story. So to them, it's irrelevant. It's not really new content. I don't care, right? I want stuff I care about, right? Give me a new battle circuit stuff, or give me some updates to PvP. How about a new multi-mission boss? Things like that, right? So I get where you're coming from, but it is all new content to someone somewhere. Bed review when? Unfortunately, there is no bed in this room. Deal with it. Pointing to the word new. Yes and no. So, as an example, when Fate Grand Order does an event rerun, they typically add new stuff to the rerun. Not story, not nodes, but the store will have new items in it. Typically for people that have already cleared it. All right? So is that rerun new content? Is it just the items you get in it new content? Where do you draw the line between what is new and not new content? Would you say that them adding the hunting quests is new content? Because I know a lot of people enjoy those. Yeah, that's kind of what I mean. Like the new farming maps they added with the recent anniversary. Do those count as new content? Even though, you know, you brainlessly run them over and over and over again. Is it really new content? Do you care about it? Anyways, I want to get back to GBM. I've gone off topic, and I do want to play some other games tonight, not just GBM until the sun rises. Yeah, sorry, Jun. We like getting off topic here, if you haven't noticed. Did they say if they're going to add more older parts to 7-star? I don't know about 7-star. I believe that is mostly reserved for new suits going forward because they have to manually do the number distribution. But I do know they are going back and giving alterations to older suits. They may give 7-star as well. We play all sorts of games. Man, do we ever. All right, so beam rifle. It's nice. As was mentioned earlier, I believe it was Mana Fusion that said it, the gun also has a knockdown, making it actually, like, really good. Typically, when you hit someone with an EX skill, a ranged beam EX skill, right, it'll hit them, they'll get kind of pushed back, but they won't get knocked over. The reason knockover is really good is it prevents the enemy from immediately countering with something while your animation ends and you're trying to get out of your current animation lock. So they can't just, you know, pawn shot first, pocket shot you, you know? You gotta have that knockdown, security, you know? It's like a good cutscene EX skill. Just have that security when they fall on the ground. Anyways, overall, beam rifle, very nice. The shot attack breaks 4K, puts it in that top 1% bracket. It's got a little bit of melee defense and thus melee attack, about 200 worth token, but you know what? Better than 0. And the word tags, workable. We get back our Gundam type on there. All right. For a welfare gun, nice. All right. And lastly, our shield for the Earth 3. Okay, melee attack down 15%, so that means you are doing 15% less melee attack damage. You know, pretty straightforward there. And for that, you have enemy EX skill penetration reduced by 45%. Now, you got to keep in mind, the current meta for GBM, is running high power, low pierce. And I mean that is people are running double S minus power, D pierce skills. So, most people will pack either lots of EX skill power boosts to just do more damage, or some of them will run EX skill pen. A lot more on the former than the latter. What this is going to do is reduce that penetration value, pierce value, by 45%. However, since the current meta is running high power, low pierce to begin with, you're kind of reducing an almost negligible value to begin with. Unless you run into that really, you know, rare person that's running like one of those A pierce B plus power skills, or they've stacked a bunch in the EX skill pen. Don't get hit. Rule 1. Mid-range Gundam type word tags. And statistically for the shield, healthy amount of melee defense, healthy amount of shot defense on there. All right, cool. After carryover, we're looking at about 1350 or so melee attack. For a shield, that's solid stuff. And then for shot attack, about 1700 kind of around there. Defensively, really nice. Offensively, really nice. For a welfare shield, really good statistically. Not so nice with the trait though. I don't personally like it that much. Tags, workable. Overall, the Earth 3 brings a dummy thick amount of stats to the table for welfare. Overall, it probably sits around the top 1% of all welfare suits statistically. Yeah. Although I guess post-power creep, that's kind of expected, right? Okay. Now that we're finally out of welfare hell, let's go take a look at our gacha. Now, as our new Sokai suit is a 7-star alter, I will just be taking a look at it in the alteration pool later. We're going to open up with our 2 pilots first, and then we're going to hopefully look at the Twitter video. Let me see, did it get uploaded yet? Please tell me you got the Twitter video up. We do have the Twitter video. Excellent. All right, so pilots, Twitter video, alterations for that new suit, and then we wrap on up and I go, I guess, eat shrimp crackers and die in a corner or something. I don't know. To be decided. Post-power creep, almost every new Sokai Battlefest banner. Welfares too. You gotta remember, before the power creep, like, because it was literally just like day and night. Before the power creep, things were still kind of where we expected. The post-power creep, it was just so different. The numbers were just not even comparable. Yeah, the welfare suits saw, I think, the biggest boost. They went from averaging, you know, like sub 2K on most frame parts. Like, before the power creep, one of the best welfare heads had like 2400 shot attack. Now, and that's like after carryover. Now 2400's a joke on a shot head. You're like, you know what? I guess you're okay. But I'm looking at that suit over there. It's got like 3600. What are you doing? Okay. We stalled long enough to get to the Twitter video. Yeah. Dude, shrimp crackers are just so good. 3600 pork. Yeah. The power creep wall is insane. If you're running parts from before the power creep, you are thousands and thousands and thousands of points behind almost anyone that rolled parts after. Like, it's not even fair. Like, as long as they only do that and they don't do it again, acceptable. This slow creep is fine, because like between banner to banner, we're seeing the numbers kind of slowly raise up, right? The power creep was just straight up spiking and then just flatlined for a while. It's nuts. Ugh. You should try the gochujang flavor if you can get it. So I'm not the biggest fan of that flavor. I have had it though, and it's I'm kind of a fan of just like the standard ones. What can I say? A vanilla shrimp cracker, bitch. Say la vie. Okay. Anyways, let's take a look at our pilots and stop dallying about. Narorina. Well, that's a spicy name. Lots of N's. Oh, sweet. Yo, pass me one. The box wasn't even open. Nice.
I've played baseball, don't you know?
When was the last time you threw a baseball?
When you liked
What, like 10 years?
more like 7.
All right. You can start aggressively T-posing in the background or what? All right. Anyways, back to our pilot. For 10 seconds after... I hate the translation so much sometimes. Okay. For 10 seconds after you're attacked with an EX skill, enemy all power reduced by 35%. The reason the English is like this is because they splice triggers with other stuff. Like, that's pretty much the way that it works, is they have blocks of text that are translated and they just slap them together. So for 10 seconds after be attacked with an EX skill, be attacked with an EX skill being the trigger, and for 10 seconds being the duration, enemy all power reduced 35%. So this is effectively, you get hit with an EX skill, they just 35% of their power just out the window, gone, finished for 10 seconds. Honestly, not that. If this applies before you get hit, okay. Unfortunately, I think we all know that's not going to be the case here. So, yeah. Not great. Defender, job license. Okay. Interesting. Statistically, for a 3-star pilot, 15, 12. Okay, so carryover with melee, we're looking at like 1800 or so. For a 3-star, that's not too bad. And then for shot attack, with carryover, about 1500 or so. Honestly, for a 3-star, those numbers are pretty good. The unfortunate part is she's a defender, meaning when you activate the defender job license, you're not getting any kind of boost on the offensive values. That's, yeah. Numbers-wise, though, for a 3-star pilot, really good. The job license really doesn't give her any offensive benefits, however, so those numbers are going to kind of be where they stand. Yeah, close combat, high mobility, very nice tertiary tags for both of these. Close combat, obviously one of the core tertiary tags for melee builds, available on tons, hundreds of parts. She have no problem activating that. And high mobility is also a nice tertiary tag as well. Both of them obviously boost your melee attack. Yeah, honestly, for a 3-star pilot, pretty good. Like, the trait could be better, The job license could be, you know, one of the melee ones, but honestly, not bad for a 3-star. Hey, Sukia. Didn't we recently get an alt that gives 70% all power reduction with a similar trigger? Yeah, I know what you're talking about, and I'm pretty sure it was one of the recent pilots. Yeah, I think it was a 4-star pilot, though, not a 3-star. All right, Kyoji Kashu. Wow, he looks mighty familiar. I wonder who he could be. There's no way he could be related to another Kashu, could he? All right. After 40 seconds pass, enemy melee damage plus 40%. So this is okay. 40 seconds, if you're a brand new player to the game, 40 seconds is acceptable because you're typically going to be running for like a minute or so, maybe a little more than that, fighting stuff, whatever. Once you get to kind of like mid-game, your battles are lasting 20 seconds or less or the pizza's free. So this is going to see some very limited use. But the 40% melee damage mod is crazy good, you know, because you rarely ever see base gacha pilots break 40%. 35% is typically where we go with those pre-alterations. So this is one heck of a mod. The 40 seconds pass makes it very difficult to activate, though, once you get to a certain stage of the game. So mileage may vary. Really depends on where you're sitting in terms of progress and how quickly you can clear content for that trait. Statistically, we're looking at about 3,200 or so melee attack, and honestly, that pairs really well with his Infighter job license. Great numbers for a 4-star base gacha pilot. Remember, you can get this pilot without rolling the gacha. You just gotta wait a few weeks. I believe it's still 4 weeks, and then you can use one of the 4-star pilot exchange tickets and just pick them right out. So only roll the gacha if you really like this character or really want this pilot. Otherwise, just be patient. And shot attack, obviously it's going to be token. It's like less than 900 or kind of around there. You know, it is what it is. Mobile fighter. Now, that is an amazing word take to see on another pilot. It makes sense. G Gundam, almost all G Gundam content has mobile fighter attached to it. Because of that, mobile fighter G Gundam stuff is almost a requirement in most melee builds. Mobile fighter being one of the 2 primary melee tags right next to protagonist, giving you a 10% melee attack boost and a melee defense boost. This is obviously very good for your numbers. It's just really difficult for newer players to get because you can only get it through G fighter parts. And yeah, they're pretty rare. Come around every couple of months, if that. So yeah, take what you can on that front. And for Desert, I'm not a fan of the 4 line of tags. I say this effectively every single stream. Yeah, I think the 4 line of tags needs to be so much better than it currently is. But mileage may vary. It's just we can't pick the maps we play on right now, at least in most content, and because of that, you're never really able to get the full benefit from the 4 line. On top of that, 4 tags typically don't activate a lot of traits, if any. There's a few of them that activate some really nice stuff, but you still got to use the 4 tags. So anyways, mobile fighter, very good. Stats, very good for a 4-star base gacha pilot. Infighter license, great. Trait, very dependent on where you are in the game. Okay, well, very interesting. Now, we're gonna go watch that Twitter video for our new Sokai suit, Ariel. Alright, Twitter video. And I believe I'm going to have to, yeah, I gotta remap it. Okay. Let us enjoy. Okay. Okay. All right. Let's go over these a little more. Okay, so our first DX skill. Pull out your beam saber, you do a little sword combo, cool little animation at the end. Now, two things with this. First, it doesn't seem, because of how close the enemy gets before it gets activated, I don't feel like there's any kind of dash or homing on this. Okay, maybe homing, but there doesn't seem to be a dash or a gap closer. So the animation for this does require you to get mighty close to the enemy to use it. On top of that, it seems relatively easy to whiff when you consider almost all of the attacks are very close to the body. And obviously it's just beam saber range. So you could easily whiff that. The last swing's pretty cool though, I'll give it that. Now, at the end of the day, I'm going to say, honestly, it depends on some factors with that EX skill. Is there a gap close? Doesn't look like it. Is there homing? It doesn't really look like it. It looks easy enough to whiff. Kind of sad. Hey, Alan. Now, one thing I will say, I don't know about you guys, but I really like the blue on that saber. That is a really nice, like, royal blue. I am a big fan of that hue over the, like, hot pink we normally get, so that is nice. All right, and our shield EX skill. This one is very long. So we're starting this animation at 4 minutes, 20 seconds. Or 27, 4:27. Effectively a 10-second long animation. Okay. Now, this is a cutscene. Bindable, has its gap close, very flashy, lots of attacks and damage going out here. Honestly, I'm a big fan of that. That looks crisp, clean, flashy. Bueno. Pretty good. Pretty good. Now, let's take a look at the suit itself. May want to have a drink. I'm armed. Okay. Start from the top with the aerial head. Okay. Now, before I get too into this, for anyone that hasn't seen this before, me talking about altered parts, I'm not going to look at the numbers on this. It is a 7-star suit, Sokai Battlefest Limited. It's going to be very strong. Safe assumption is, as a 7-star premier suit, especially the crossover kind of thing it's doing, I'm expecting this to be head and shoulders above pretty much almost everything else that's available. It's going to be a numerical power creep advantage. At the end of the day, numerically, I don't see much of a reason to look at 7-star suits at all. We have a bunch of them. They're better than any suit that isn't 7-star, just by virtue of being a 7-star. Ignore stats. I will be looking at the word tag / part traits EX skill. When you alter a part, the part traits are not modified, or sorry, part traits are modified, word tags are not. However, as I didn't look at the suit in the base gacha, I'll also be looking at word tags here. Normally I would skip it and just look at the trait / EX skill, but with the 7-star advent, I've just kind of skipped stats and just everything else. I'm actually not all that mad to the head. 1,000 armor heals per... Anyways. While Pro Tag, recover 1,000 armor gradually. After 5 seconds pass, enemy all power reduced by 35%. So, Pro Tag, very easy tag to get. So very easy to get. Recover 1,000 armor gradually. This is a hefty heal. But let's see. This suit alone has 4,000. Just on the head. And keep in mind, the head is not the highest armored part of a suit. 1,000 is a good number. It'll take 4 gradual ticks in order for just the head to get its all heal back. As was mentioned in chat, nice for those acid missions where it burns you. Outside of that, though, honestly, not amazing. Not terrible. 1,000 again, very big number for this. But yeah, not great. After 5 seconds pass, enemy all power reduced by 35%. Two things to keep in mind. 1, 5 seconds in a normal map, no problem. 5 seconds is like no time at all. That's about how much it takes for things to spawn and become, damageable. So no issues there. 2, PvP. Once the match starts, you have that half second to move, and then you get the big warning, enemy spawns, battle starts. That entire time where it's doing the flashing animation, the enemies are coming down, you're being introduced to them, that all counts towards these timers. By the time you can actually move in PvP, this will be activated. This is effectively taking over a third of all of their, everything. Just all their offensive capabilities, just everything. 35% out the window. Interesting part. Very interesting. I don't really know how to rate those, because those are they're not inherently bad. They just have a very specific use case, You know what? I'll just leave this playing in the background while I talk about this. I just gotta mute the audio on it. Cool. Very interesting. Pro tag and high firepower. Pro tag, again, really great melee tag, one of the 2 cores. High firepower, extremely flexible tertiary tag, works on shot, works on melee, available on half the parts in the game, I swear. Solid. Torso. With speed attribute, EX skill cooldown reduced by 23%. So again, speed attribute, very easy to do. Just have 5 parts or more that are speed, and you're done. And you get a 23% EX skill cooldown reduction. Second highest in the game, which I believe is right behind the new that we got recently. Was it the new? It was a recent suit. Look, my brain is fried at this point. It's already midnight. We took too long talking about other stuff. I'm big dumb now. With rifle category equipped, EX skill cooldown reduced by a further 20%. So if you are running a speed suit and you have a rifle in your main ranged hand, which there are so many rifles in this game, so many of them are extremely good, you will have no issue activating that second trait. And the first trait, really no issue there either. Just speed attribute, and you'll get a total of 43% CDR. That's really good for a single part. All right, Pro Tag and Gundam type. Again, Pro Tag, very good on melee suits. Gundam type, workable tertiary. All right. Yeah, it was the big high news, so I'm not completely crazy. Good. All right, the arms. Arms. All right, so remember where I said the 4 line of tags activates very few traits? Here is one more to add to the list, and this is a good one too. Force space, enemy all damage plus 50%. Now, the 4 line of tags is 100% a mileage may vary scenario. Either you're running a suit in an environment where you're going to get all the benefits, or you're not. It's a difference of about 2%. So, you do you. But the enemy all damage plus 50%, that is a huge modifier. We've seen this on other parts in the past with much easier activation requirements that, work with more common builds. So really, I don't really know how to feel about this one. I don't like force space just by nature of it being a 4 tag, but I know force space activates some other stuff, and this is a good, actual benefit for it. So yeah. And 55% chance of attack penetrating super armor. So on average, 1 out of every 2 hits, you're going to ignore enemy super armor. That's when you hit them. They don't stagger or anything. They just keep coming at you. This 1 in 2 chance, effectively, you're going to ignore that. Obviously, doesn't actually result in every other hit staggering them, but on paper, that's what it'll do. Yeah, space and computers are pretty much the only 4 tags that have decent traits, so it's not that bad. But that's it, right? You got to include the caveat. It's not that bad, guys. There's so many alternatives. Okay. Honestly, the arms, not bad. I'm not a big fan of the traits, but I can see them being useful for some people in very specific scenarios. Much like the head, it feels like a niche part. Alright, legs. With saber category equipped, which is very easy to do, we have so many sabers in this game. EX skill cooldown reduced by 23%. That's good. One shot attack is over 12,000, which is very easy to do. That's a rounding error on some builds. Enemy EX skill damage plus 40%. Very powerful modifier. Obviously not the 50% modifier we just saw, but 40% is the third highest, next being 45 and then 50, obviously. So very, very good there. Honestly, you get your EX skill damage boost and an EX skill cooldown reduction. Very symbiotic, and all you need to do is have a saber equipped, dime a dozen, and have over 12k shot attack, which is just upgrade a rifle and you're done pretty much. Good stuff. Good leg traits. Prote Gundam type. Alright, let's check the R backpack. When buffed, enemy all power reduced by 35%. Very easy to get a buff in this game. They exist in so many forms, whether it's from an EX skill cutscene buffing you, an awakening buffing you, an actual buff skill, an alpha, beta, gamma. So many ways to get a buff in this game, so no issues there. Enemy all power gets reduced by 35%. Okay. When armor is 50% or more, very easy. You start with 100%. Little known fact. Yeah, so just don't get hit. Buff EX skill effect up 40%. The way that the numbers work on this game, when you get a buff EX skill effect up, it literally just takes the number plus whatever the modifier is. So if we had a 49% shot attack boost, this would just make it 89%. Yeah, cool. Good stuff. Good stuff. I still don't know how to feel about the enemy all power reduction because I'm still in the camp of just don't get hit. Yeah. Second trait, buff EX skill effect up. It's not bad at all, but because of that first trait, I personally feel it's kind of, you know, mars the whole thing a bit. All right. Shield. All right, so this is the one that has the crazy EX skill, Escutcheon, or however you pronounce that accursed name. Double S minus power, hits like a truck, D pierce. This is pretty much the exact scenario that I was talking about earlier when I was talking about the enemy EX skill penetration. Anyways, let's read this list. Raise melee attack of your squad by 29%. Not an amazingly high number, but I see it also boosts your shot attack, so it's obviously going to take a bit of a hit. Raise shot attack of your squad by 34%. Okay, getting up there. Keep in mind, typically on a Sokai limited suit, we see 49% as the standard for a single stat boost. When it's split, these numbers are a lot more common to see. All melee skill cooldowns instantly down 28%, and shot skill cooldowns instantly down 28%. So this is the effective, perfect part, so to speak. You use it, you get a melee boost, you get a shot boost, all of your melee cooldowns come off, all your shot cooldowns come out. This is... They really want us to roll the gacha, don't they? You got a flashy EX skill, great power, amazing actual buff list on it. I think it affects allies too. So that is debatable. Keep in mind, normally when something affects your squad or your allies, it lists that in the skill right above. Raise shot attack of your squad by 34%, not raise your shot attack by 34% or raise shot attack by 34%. Much in that vein, the shield cooldown reductors are literally just all shot cooldowns. Doesn't say for your squad, doesn't say for your allies, just it appears to be just for you. Not bad. I'm surprised they didn't make it triple. It just says all. Yeah, but the problem is their translations are typically very spotty. So it's hard to look at it and take it at face value, knowing how they've had errors in the past, you know? Okay. Protag and Force Space. There's really not much to complain about with that shield. Like I said, on paper, it looks like the perfect shield. It gives you everything. Okay, let's look at the Beam Saber. While Protag, all power boosted by 40%. Again, Protag, very easy to get. You're going to be running it on a melee suit, and you get a 40% extra power boost due to that. Cool. Melee damage raised 10%, so that means you are taking 10% extra damage. Enemy all damage plus 50%. This... Wow. Okay, so this, when I was talking about the battle formula earlier, this is effectively the part I would love to use as an example in the future. All power boosted by 40% and enemy all damage plus 50%. Both of these work effectively the same way, just with different locations in the battle formula. All power boost for you as your suit, you're doing 40% extra on any action. Any attack you do, 40% extra. Being applied to it anyways in the formula. Enemy all damage plus 50% is effectively all power boost plus 50%, just with a different name. The only requirements for this are you have Protag and you're willing to take 10% more melee damage. This is one hell of a Beam Saber. You're looking at effectively a 90% all power boost, rough, because the formula makes it better than that. That's, you're almost doubling your stats for free. Welfare Build Strike says your melee CD, so if it doesn't say your, but all, it applies to the squad. Good, perfect. Thanks for the clarification, Mana. So that makes the shield even better. Your squad gets a melee boost, a shot boost, and your squad also gets all of its melee and shock cooldowns reduced by almost 30%. That shield, very, very good. This Beam Saber, very, very good. Protag makes it unattractive for shot suits. Of course, Alex. This Beam Saber is obviously much more geared up towards a melee suit versus a shot. But simultaneously, if you're running this on a shot suit without Protag, you're still getting a 50% enemy all damage boost. You may not get the all power boosted, but, and you also have a tertiary tag. While Protag may not be the dream, do keep in mind, typically your tertiary tag is adding approximately 5% extra shot attack to your final build numbers. Would you rather a 40% all power boost or a 5% shot attack boost? Think about that one for a bit. All right. And lastly, our beam rifle that has a Beam Saber EX. What? Okay. Sure, Chief. Whatever. So, on our beam rifle, we have our Beam Saber. Now, do keep in mind, it's the animation that's actually playing right now. It has no homing, from what we see. It has, like, a very close range. No dash, no gap close. You gotta use it very close to the enemy and hope they don't dodge and you whiff it. It looks like you can be interrupted out of it. There's a lot of demerits. A+ power, D pierce, pocket rocket cooldown, reduces their melee and shot attack by 24%. On paper, very nice looking kind of beam melee skill. In practice, that's going to be a no from me, dog. The animation alone, the last hit looks flashy, but due to all the demerits that are attached to it, honestly, I just don't think it's worth it. Okay. And someone mentioned, ooh, a Jin. Alright, so we'll be taking a look at the Jin type High Maneuver 2. This is a standard alteration, not a limited alteration. So, yeah. For this, I won't be looking at the stats. I'm just going to be looking at the trait/EX skills. Not even going to look at the tags for it, unless it's related to the trait in question. Alright. Leg parts EX skill power boosted by 25%. So I've mentioned how I feel about part-specific EX skill boosts already. Long and short, cool, but it feels almost like a demerit because you take up a slot that could be like an EX skill power boost, a general one for all of your parts, with one that's specific for a single one. When 3 enemies shot down, reduce cooldowns by 99% once. This has a lot of restrictions attached to it implicitly by just being what it is. First, you need to be doing a mission that has more than 3 enemies. So this will be useless in Arena because that has exactly 3 enemies. Won't be useful in most multi-missions because, if not all multi-missions, because 1 enemy. It'll only be useful on some battle circuit maps and some story missions, depending on what you're doing, some event missions. So very limited use case for that second trait. Yeah, it's league worthy, sure. But again, do you really want to eat up your head EX skill or your head traits with that plus a leg EX skill power boost? Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't. I'm just like, by the time you down 3 enemies, and at the same time, like, you're doing league, you probably already have a decent CDR to begin with. Like, if you care about your ranking. It just seems like a superfluous part. It's not inherently bad, 99% is really nice, but there's a heavy limitation as to where you can use it. Torso. When attacking with physical, melee power boosted by 25%, and while ace exclusive, enemy melee damage plus 35%. Okay. So if you are using a physical and you have ace exclusive, your melee power is boosted. However, ace exclusive, keep in mind, is a shot tag, not a melee tag. So you are kinda gimping yourself there with that. The melee power boost is nice though. Since these are 2 different facets of the same deal, fits really well into the battle formula to give you the extra bit of damage. But I think the ace exclusive on these lower modifiers kinda cripples it a bit. If you can make it work, hey, great for you, but Alright, arms. When in space category, so if you happen to have 4 space, this would also activate that. Melee crit rate boosted by 17%. And what I mean by that is, if you're on a map and you have 4 space would be activated, giving you the full, I think it's 5% boost, on top of activating this trait where you get the melee crit rate boost. Unfortunately, crit rate's garbage, so it doesn't even matter. Cooldown time up 20%, melee power boosted by 40. So your CDR gets 20% kind of taken away. So something that cost 80 seconds previously is going to cost 20% more. Whatever the heck that works to. Brain too fried to think numbers. And you get a melee power boost. Is it worth? Honestly, because of that first trait, you're really slotting this just for the second trait. And we have better stuff for a 40% melee power boost. So no. Legs. EI slash. A- power, D pierce, pocket rocket cooldown. Ready your weapon to mow down enemies that enter your space. Unless I'm mistaken, this is just a swing and a kind of a conal in front of you. Very limited use case on this. No. On paper, it doesn't look bad, but in practice, unless I'm mistaking the animation, not useful. Backpack. When 1 ally shot down, Vernier consumption equals 0 for 10 seconds. So again, this has a kind of a caveat as to where you can use it. Anything that only has or doesn't allow you to field more than 1 suit, this won't be useful whatsoever. Requiring one of your suits to die could actually be very difficult, depending on how spec'd out your stuff is. And a 10-second 0 Vernier consumption, I don't know if that's really worth it or not. I personally don't find Vernier to be a big concern in this game, but again, mileage may vary, depends on your build, depends on your playstyle. To me, that's kind of a waste of a trait slot. Leg parts EX skill power boosted by 40%. So again, good modifier on this, but it does fall into that catch of it only boosts a single slot instead of multiple. The sword, Zankito. While close combat, all enemies' EX skill recovery reduced by 16%. So this is effectively, to what I recall, EX skill recovery means any EX skill that heals them. So if you have, heal 48% of your health or whatever, this takes 16% off. When armor is 60% or less, reduce cooldown by 99% once. So this is, you get hit enough, you just get all your cooldowns off, and you can just start using those. Kind of a lifesaver. I don't really know how to feel about this. It might be meta in some very niche fashion, but honestly, it's interesting. I'll give it that, but 2 parts that give 99% cooldown reduction. That's a very interesting thing to keep in mind, though. Beam Carbine. Shot damage raised 10%, so you're taking 10% extra shot damage. Job gauge increase boosted by 13%. Personally, I don't like the job gauge. I don't like what it does. I think it could be way better than its current implementation, so I don't really use it, if at all. To me, this is just, it's a complete non-trait. Melee damage raised 10%, job gauge increase boosted by a further 20%. If you're someone that likes using your job gauge, this might be something to look at. You're just taking 10% extra shot and melee damage, but you're getting a 33% job gauge increase boost. That's significant. It fills a third faster. And lastly, our shield. While Ace exclusive, shot spread reduced by 15%. So what this refers to, when you're aiming at somebody and you shoot at them, the shot actually has a very small deviation point that it flies. This reduces that by 15%. If you're using a SMG that kind of sprays the bullets out, this will condense it a little bit. Honestly, not amazing. At the end of the day, the smart homing that our weapons have is more than enough to hit most, if not all, of our shots to begin with. This really not that great. For 10 seconds after being attacked with an EX skill, enemy melee damage plus 40%. We saw this earlier. Pretty much the same mood on that. Meh. Okay, so that covers our Jin type and our aerial. Cool. Overall, a very interesting drop of suits. We have, well, the aerial looked nice. It had a lot of interesting traits, EX skills, whatnot. The welfare, statistically really nice. Yeah. All right. Well, with that, gang, we're done this week's update drop. So I'm going to wrap up and head out. As we've gone back to more or less normal scheduling with GBM, and I say more or less because I'm going to be doing every other week again when, content drops, the events, but I will also, as normally, covering any emergency suit drops that may happen on off days. So, yeah. Thanks for coming in. Thanks for tuning in. All that fun stuff, hanging out, gang. It's nice seeing all of you. I'm surprised you're still here after this long. Yeah, I'll see you guys in a couple of weeks or earlier if they decide to drop some kind of big old surprise, or something interesting happens in the game sphere and I decide to stream some CBT. Yeah, I'm still kind of upset about Star Rail, but what can you do? Peace out, guys. See you in the next one.